yeah. Good morning, neighbors. Good morning, neighbors. Welcome to hour number 2 of the Power Breakfast Show. Broadcasting with studios at 88 to 90 Abercrombie Street in Port of Spain. Of course, it's Paul Richard Ragoobarsingh, Wendel, Stephen, and myself, Steve Khan. He'll be coming in until 9 o'clock until Charles pops in. Of course, we want to thank the folks out at Bermuda's, makers of Cricks, your vital supply for powering our 7 o'clock news brief. There's overcast on Monday. Thank you so much, Bermuda's, makers of Cricks. Cricks goes with everything, you know that already. Nothing beats Cricks and cheese, or Cricks and a jam, or Cricks by itself. Right, and thank you, folks. And of course, you can pick up your Cricks at every corner store, grocery, what have you. All right, get your pack of Cricks and leave it everywhere. Take a look what's happening traffic-wise at Creek and San Fernando. You've got some traffic. San Fernando bypass as well, heading towards Coquille. Also got some traffic. The Golconda Connector Road is a bit busy already. Traffic heading towards Marabella. But the Solo leaving San Fernando. Straight up. I'm passing Claxton Bay. Rivulet Road. Oh my goodness. Top to bottom. Heavy. All right. Southern Main Road through Cuba also heavy. Traffic is just heavy straight up from San Fernando, pretty much on Churchill Roosevelt Highway. Valencia stretch, I should not tell you about that, but heavy from Maloney heading straight up towards Port of Spain. I got another minor accident to tell you about. This is westbound by Trin City Lights. All right, that Trin City Connector Road is heavy from the main road to highway. It is traffic. Wow. And of course, Eastern Main Road heavy again from Arima Old Road. Eastern Main Road Parity Bus Route volume galore. And heading to Port of Spain. Mount Hope straight into Mova Junction. You've got traffic this morning. Wow. Traffic is horrendous. On a Maraval, same thing. Long Circular Road. Same thing, heavy. You name the route, it's heavy. Let's put it that way. All right, let's just put it that way. All right, so the guys are back in, so we get the result of our morning poll.
You ready?
Yeah, I said let's get the result of our morning poll.
All right. Of course, this morning we asked,
Hey, we got that one.
There's Richard. Richard has to remind me how he phrased the question. I have the results though. I think it matches his.
Well, do you think that the UNC's objection to a member of the committee to investigate the Paris incident is legitimate? Do you think the objection is legitimate? Yes or no? That's our poll this morning. We had 21 people voting on the poll. You could see whether your figures coincide with mine, Wendell. Mm-hmm. We had 21 people voting on the poll this morning. 13 said no, 8 said yes.
Yeah, I have 13-7 because I think Steve double-checked somebody. Somebody who voted, he said the name twice, and but I picked up on it. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I have 13-7. But
so in any case, the result would be that the nays won.
Yeah,
At least in terms of the nays saying no, they don't. They don't think that the objection is legitimate.
Yeah. So after the opposition, UNC trained the guns on independent senators recently, they have now trained the gun on independent investigators. That's what they're doing. That's what they did.
Well,
they trained the gun on independent senators and call them eater food and all manner of things. Now they've trained the guns on the independent investigators. Without the man even saying one word, even starting the word. They've trained the guns on him. You can put on how much hat you want. You can put on how much hat you want. How much mask you want. I came to, you let me tell us, and I'm consistent there because I came to the defense of the independent senators. I came to the defense of our colleague Richard and Steve. Okay?
You did.
I'm coming to the defense of Mr. Eugene Tia this morning. If I'm the only person who does so. You done? You done?
I just wanted to say something which is, I'm not going into your Potter Callaloo this morning.
Can people see us though?
I just wanted to say something related to what Steve was saying about the traffic. And I felt the Prime Minister should have qualified his statement when he said that all public servants are back out today. He should have said, even those in hybrid work systems, they can continue to work with their hybrid work systems. Because you have some agencies, for example, like the judiciary, you would have some agencies that have pretty professionally gone to the work from home and the issue to work remotely. And to me, that's the future of work. That's the future of work. It's going to be. What's that?
Richard Ragoobarsingh. The government's, since the start of the pandemic, the government's announcements and pronouncements on this work from home, pandemic leave, quasi-safe work zone has been so confusing. Because up to now, we don't know what the status of the quasi-work situation.
But they basically backed off of that, eh?
But they haven't said they've backed off.
Yeah, no, they haven't said that.
Yeah.
They've delayed it by a month. The Prime Minister didn't make any comment on it the last 2 times he addressed the country. The AG said he was still working on it. And then the Prime Minister on Saturday saying public servants back out to 100% work. With no reference to the quasi-work situation. Remember I told you all I heard behind the scenes that they had realized it was too difficult to implement and they're backing off?
No, but they did ask him about it, After General Council, there was a press conference. You all may have missed that. But after General Council, there was a press conference.
From Jennifer Baptiste Primus, then Labour Minister, and her announcement of pandemic leave, which was, I don't know what to call it. No, to the entire evolution of this work from home hybrid, to the government stating on record, as Richard said, that there were benefits from some hybrid situations. To now the Prime Minister saying everybody back out to work is confusing and inconsistent.
It's confusing and inconsistent because you have many agencies because there is a whole thrust to make e-government a reality, to make e-government very digital, which means a lot more people can work remotely from home, which lends itself, going back to where my conversation started with Steve and traffic. Because you don't get more decentralized than that. If people can work from home and productively, and there are many agencies that do.
And many benefits from it too.
Yeah, it means, therefore, you are in fact decentralizing services and reducing the clutter on the roads. So him just saying a blank statement, like he got up this morning, that's how it kind of comes across. I get up today and this is what we're going to say.
The entire thing has been so lacking consistency and clarity. Remember there was an email circulated to PSs?
Yes.
Concerning the vaccination issue you're talking about?
The vaccination issue, the work from home. The entire chronology of the thing is so confusing and inconsistent. You don't know what is what from week to week, from month to month.
Yeah.
So you don't know what to apply. I guess you don't know what to apply.
You don't know what exactly is the plan.
Your particular state agency or entity because it's so shifting and confusing. So,
what's your ultimate goal? Because if your ultimate goal is that you have, I'm just going down the road here, that if it is that people can work from home, then it means your ultimate goal probably can be reduction in government expenditure in the size of brick and mortar places that government departments take up.
Oh, you asking for trouble there.
Because if you say that brick and mortar takes up 120,000 square feet of a building to
so what is wrong with you?
Nobody knows.
And nobody knows. And who are they going to pay the rent to? Who are they going to pay the rent to?
That should be your goal.
Richard,
at least one of your goals. Your ultimate goal should be efficiency. And that making it easier, because from the time you tell public servants come out into brick and mortar buildings, you are actually telling the clientele they serve, come out to brick and mortar buildings.
But here the flip side of that. From the time you tell public servants, stop coming out to brick and mortar, you're basically starting to tell them, well, we don't really need you all, so we can start to cut down and start.
That's a logical conclusion.
That is how it's going to be put over by
I
some
don't agree
people.
with that at all. I disagree with that. That doesn't necessarily mean you don't function. Public servants have org structure,
It's going to be
because you're working from home, you're not working, that's what you're saying.
it's going to be interpreted that way.
No, but that's not true.
That is not true. That's not a natural conclusion. That is not so at all.
Okay.
Maybe when you work from home, you work less. I work more.
No, in fact, a lot of the evidence indicates, and this is evidence I think that came out from the CPO, that productivity increased
once
with
managed
a lot of
properly.
working because and you're right, Paul, because sometimes people have work coming off
You're taking emails and calls 7 o'clock in the night.
People doing work Saturdays and Sundays. People doing work.
Yep.
Because you're getting.
I've never had the luxury of the work from home thing for the 2 years. I've never had it. Because of the industries I'm involved in, I've never had the work from home. If I
remember correctly, even the Prime Minister in one of his press conferences in the middle of the pandemic stated that the work from home situation, according to information reaching him, had some benefits accrued to it.
I have no doubt about it.
Including less traffic on the roads, including better management of resources in the office, including less supplies in the office being used.
Yeah.
Well,
there are all sorts of work from home programs that institutions can use where you can actually have people working and supervisors can see what you're doing.
And there are
they can actually see how long you're on. They can actually see
solutions.
They can actually see if you're typing the letter that you sent to them. You can see all of that, you know.
Yeah.
So it's even more suggestion that there will be a tendency to have less people. Once the job spec is being managed properly and the performance is being managed properly, it don't necessarily mean that people are less productive. In some cases, if it's not managed properly, it can be so, but that doesn't necessarily follow through.
You may have missed my point, you know. The point I'm making is that is what some people, that is the narrative some people will go with. That is the narrative some people will go with, that they don't need you again. Trust me, I know. You're too older than me. All you know Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, please. What fraud you trying to perpetuate on the national national radio?
No, well, now that people can see us,
national viewing radio.
Now that people can see us, they can see the honesty in the face.
But the thought just came into my mind with Steve talking about all of the traffic, and I'm saying remote working is a way to reduce your traffic. So it should have been more. There should have been more thought, in my opinion.
The entire thing has been mismanaged and miscommunicated. It has changed from month to month, and to me, it culminated with the announcement of the quasi-work thing that they got opposition to, no pun intended, and from the labor unions in particular, because they had no way of forcing people to disclose their vaccination status, and I think they realized that, upon which to predicate the who from home, who from work. And also the workforce was saying, well, if we have to be vaccinated and interacting with the public who may not be vaccinated, what's the point? So the whole quasi situation that was supposed to be, I think, January 17th, then delayed to February 17th, and then it went into the ethos of the vacuum of nothingness. With no announcement, because, well, we make a mistake, but we want to cop to it.
Yeah. Miscommunicated.
We want to admit we make a mistake.
Miscommunicated, I'll agree with.
It was just the whole, from Jennifer Batiste premise then to the whole thing was just badly managed.
Yeah, it was never...
It was really badly
But not
managed.
only that, you have a whole ministry now of digitization, or is it digitalization? I'm always confused.
Digitization.
So you have a whole ministry under Minister Bacchus, whose drive is to move towards e-governance. You can't be moving towards e-governance and still maintaining brick and mortar.
But you can
the whole idea should be to
it's always going to be a hybrid system.
Your brick and mortar footprint, thereby saving costs. Because when you reduce your brick and mortar, it's not only rent you're saving. You know, I'm not saying that you don't have a brick and mortar presence. Don't get me wrong, but a smaller one because you have so many people who are working remotely. But you not only save your you save rental because you reduce, you downsize, but you also save electricity. You also save telephone bills. You save all of the incidentals that go along with having a brick and mortar. So there are so many costs.
Yeah, and that's true. But to be fair, there are other situations that may not have been put in place yet, because in the ideal situation, moving to a hybrid where you have brick and mortar, yes, but you have persons working from home, they still haven't worked out a lot of the vagaries, including internet allowance for people at home equipment for people at home, the liabilities that may be involved with persons having sensitive documentation at home and stuff like that in the context of having that hybrid situation. So there are other aspects that may need to be put in place to realize that goal properly.
But I know most of the places that have that remote work from home situation, especially in sensitive information environments. And for example, you go onto a platform that depends on your level in the system, will give you access to certain parts of the system. So if you are support staff, for example, and if it is that you're a clerical worker and your job is pulling files and sending files to whoever requests, even though that becomes less of an issue remotely because whoever wants a file can pull it up remotely, the issue of your access to more and more sensitive information is reduced according to what you need to see and what you don't need to see. So you'd have some people would have higher levels of access and higher levels of being able to tamper with documentation. So you have the same levels of access mirrored digitally that you would have actually in person. And so all of those issues are looked at and you can tweak according to whatever your organizational requirements are. But my basic thing was the way that the Prime Minister said it, he did not leave latitude for many agencies that can do a hybrid system, which is where a lot of things of agencies, I'm not saying all, some were not prepared for remote working at all, but there's some that were and are.
Well, it's worked for us with the radio.
Yeah, basically, the question about it is 2 years in, and there doesn't seem to be a really clearly defined and structured approach to this situation. And I understand, and so I guess that's what the Prime Minister say. You know what? Everybody back out to work tomorrow, Monday.
Well,
in spite of all that has been said before.
It's not what the world is facing in terms of this pandemic.
Their jurisdictions have been very successful in mapping out the way forward to a hybrid work situation. Don't blame the world on this. We just didn't do it well.
I think the issue is not just getting back out to work, The issue is that there are some agencies that never stopped work. And that they may have rostered work, but they worked remotely. So they have always been out to work every single day.
Yeah.
It's just that some days they may not have been physically in office. They may have been working remotely, but they are there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to say all public service back to work is not really capturing the actual picture in terms of what was taking place on the ground in some agencies and some public service departments. But some people they may not be rostered physically to be in office, but they're still working remotely. And I see a lot of remote working happening now in a lot of companies. I'm not necessarily talking public sector.
But you guys are a perfect example.
For us, for example, we are one. But for example, when I'm speaking to like TSTT, I had cause to call TSTT, I had cause to call Flow at one point, and somebody else. And it was 3 different agencies I called private sector places. Every one of them, people were working at home.
Yeah.
And I could tell because you're getting a dog barking in the distance. And you could just tell that it was a at-home environment in those 3 instances, but yet they were able to accomplish exactly what I wanted to accomplish.
Yeah.
And they're at home, but they're at work. I think for some people, they think at home, you're not at work.
And some ministers can't talk. I don't know. One would imagine you to be hearing profoundly from the Minister of Labour.
He has been off. And we have said that from day one. He has been kind of quiet as a minister
in this time.
Yeah. The minister,
these issues facing us.
Yeah, the minister.
I always tell you, there are 5 ministers that's talking. 5, maybe 6.
Yeah.
The rest of them, they're going to some kind of void.
But the whole point of e-governance is for you to work remotely, a lot of it. Hence, when they're saying that we have partnered with Estonia is about that you can do everything from a computer screen. You don't have to leave your house. Everything you can do from your computer screen, including vote. The only 2 things you can't do, the only thing you can't do is death and weddings.
But you could do that from a computer screen too.
No, I don't think well, you have to have a funeral, and etc. etc.
Okay.
I'm talking about that part of it.
You can't do a wedding from a screen?
No, you still have to.
You can't do vows from you here and she there.
To do the wedding ceremony, etc. etc.
And you have
Why
to
don't you
sign.
raise your face in the frame?
But everything
cut
else.
off half of your neck.
What is that?
Wendell, you need to fix your frame.
Yeah,
What?
but
And you
everything
put it down?
else. Yeah.
I don't want a little see.
You
I don't
always,
fix
you
my
always have a
background.
tendency to go down, eh? You
No,
can't
you
help
see
it.
you see that picture
You
in the
just
back
love
of
to
me?
go down.
You see that picture in the back of me? I'm going to try to get someone to configure that as my background.
Yeah.
That don't mean you have to go down and cut off
I'm
half
just
of your face.
saying, because I have to pull the laptop a bit forward.
And you've done that successfully. Look at you.
But I
So
don't.
who would have
You see,
thought?
the lower part of my background is not. I want to fix that first.
But you need to take off that wherever underwear hanging on the blue gate.
It's
behind
an
you before.
hello. It's an umbrella.
Oh Lord.
It's an
have
umbrella.
mercy. Hey.
Never leave the underwear hanging on the gate.
You know,
It really looked like that for a minute, there, you know, Paul.
You see,
Whoever leave the underwear hanging on the gate
see-
behind
see-
there after they hurriedly took it off.
easy piece of cloth and go on the underwear. You know.
After they hurriedly removed it from their body to facilitate you. Clearly.
Trust me, nobody does it anyway. Hush. Never behave.
You could
Richard
get
never
baited,
behave
man.
himself.
You could get baited. Nobody hurriedly takes up the underwear by you. Is that what you're saying?
I have to listen to this voice note someone sent for me, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, but as we were saying, the
Richard, can I
whole
break?
work from home policy on behalf of the government from the start of the pandemic, and I understand it was an emergency transition, but you can't be saying an emergency 2 years in, heading into the third year. So we've made no gains. So it seems when the Prime Minister made the announcement on Friday in the House that public servants back out to work 100%, it kind of just went
came
counterintuitive
across
to what the
archaic.
narrative was.
It came across archaic from where the
like-
rest of the world is moving.
It's like, what? So we, after all the supposed gains, we just all back
no
out to work.
improvements were made.
No improvements were made and no systems put in place. So let me just go back out to work.
Yeah.
Okay. Well done. Congratulations. We move
I'm
forward.
just happy. I'm just happy that life, as we know it, is getting back to normal slowly but surely. I'm just happy for that.
It is.
You know, and I'm hoping that coming out of the carnival, taste of carnival activities, that we will have no spike, and that we could say, okay, good. Our biggest test was in fact that, and let's get back to normal.
Yeah.
You know, because I want to be able to walk out the road too without a mask. That to me will signify normalcy. Walking out the road without a mask. Because sometimes I have the mask and I have it in my pocket and I naturally walk out the road because I'm basically parked 2 minutes right outside the gate. You know, and one evening a policeman stopped me, where's your mask? I said, but I'm going in the vehicle right there, you know, he didn't want to hear that. So.
That's not the point. You're breaking the law. You're on the street, the
Well,
public street.
Wendell,
You're a public
I understand
official.
that
What's
you.
wrong
I
with you?
understand you because sometimes I have had a couple of incidents where I have completely forgotten that I did not have on my mask. Now my mask was in my pocket because I leave it in my pocket because sometimes you walk away from your vehicle and say, "Oh, forget my mask," and you have to walk back to the vehicle. I've cultivated a habit now of making sure it's in my pocket so I don't have that issue.
Yeah.
But I think I've told you all this. I went in a supermarket in Arima. I walk around, people saying, "Hi, we go in," and sit and I talking, and sometimes people stand up and talk to me. Actually talked to me, and people saying, "Hi, we going," teaching, and I walking through, and all of a sudden it dawned on me. But wait,
Where's my mask? Yeah, that
Where's my
happens
mask?
to
and
me
nobody
sometimes.
told me. Nobody said. I passed a security officer at the entrance.
The people afraid
Went
you
to
too,
take
eh?
my hand,
They know your mouth.
and it was just.
They know your mouth.
It was just an absent-minded movement on my part, but nobody.
You're always bad talking somebody in the radio, but he ain't have on no mask.
No, but nobody said, "Hey, wear your mask."
But
People
did,
spoke to me and I'm like, and
did
so
they
we-
have on their
I-
mask?
I self-realized.
Did they have on their mask though?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
But it just wasn't registering that you didn't have on yours. Because you know it's such a common thing, and you forget that after a while you forget you have it on sometimes too. Huh?
Going international, have you all realized the kind of sanctions that are going down in Russia? Netflix has stopped its services to Russia. MasterCard and Visa card have stopped their services to Russia.
American Express.
American Express has stopped its service to Russia. I mean, they're pouring on the pressure.
Yeah, it's as isolated
and Putin
as
don't care.
get.
Apple has stopped selling its products in Russia.
Samsung too has suspended.
Samsung, I think, has stopped selling its products in Russia.
Yeah.
So the corporate world now has the corporate world globally is now taking a stance against the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah. Even some of the aircraft companies that supply parts to their aircrafts have stopped.
Yeah. I think the biggest...
You even have some Russians actually leaving the country.
Yeah.
I think what will
over 10,000, I think,
test is the no-fly zone. If that comes into effect, because he has already said he's going to declare war on everybody after that, right?
Well, he didn't say it like that.
Well,
he said if you enforce a no-fly zone, something along the lines,
it's a declaration of war.
You will be considered a part of the you'll be considered a part of the conflict or something like that. That's how we
Putin being diplomatic. Is that what you say?
Yeah. No, I didn't say what he said. He didn't say the words "we will declare war on you" like how you said it.
No, but you know, Richard raised a point last week, and we have to really consider whether this man is operating with a sound mind.
And
because other than that, you have to ask yourself, what is your... So you realize where the world is going. You may not have thought... You were expecting some sanctions, because you know that's the general go-to protocol, but the kind of global, national and corporate shutdown that's taking place. I mean, can you survive on your own? You may have China slipping your stuff. You may have India slipping your stuff. You understand? The countries that have had abstained in
Pakistan.
the vote. Pakistan. But you still, as a country, can you survive with just those allies or undeclareds? And for how long? And then what? So you because I read on a report last night that stated that Russia has lost as many as I haven't been able to confirm because it came from one of the UK's strange sources, 230,000 troops so far in this conflict. They didn't say how many Ukrainian forces died. So, okay, you let's just say 200,000 men died already going into this, and you're pressing on.
That sounds that figure
sounds like a lot to me. That's why I say I'd be
crazy.
Able to confirm it.
Yeah, sounds crazy.
But you're going down the road, and let's just say this goes on for another month, and the sanctions intensify, and some no-fly zones are initiated. What is your end game? You want to stand alone in the world? You want to go? Is it your mark in history you think you're leaving? Is it about just living comfortably? No, you want to go down in history as well somebody on the stature, because he had that kind of ego of Hitler. Because other than that, you'd just be another Boris Yeltsin or Gorbachev.
Yeah.
But to get to the historical stature of an Adolf Hitler, you have to really go crazy.
And
you understand? So maybe that's his end game. He's thinking legacy. And he want to go down 50 years from now as saying, I am the one who brought war to the world. Maybe that, because that's the kind of ego he contains, he has, eh?
Yes.
I ain't just want to be another Russian president. That's too ordinary. But I want to go down in history as the man who brought the world to World War III.
Yeah.
And that is a different level of historical stature, because right now all this talk about coming out today is Hitler. Not so? Maybe that's the end game, because it can't be that you think you're going to win this.
Well, you see where that goes.
Yeah,
because
I don't know where it's going to end. And I understand I mean, 141 countries, of course, condemned Russia for the invasion in the UN General Assembly vote, which, of course, is the vast majority of countries on the planet, that says basically no. And not only that, I think the rest of the planet is like, what the hell? We just come out of COVID. What you dragging us and sending up our blood pressure again for something so nonsensical? I think that's the rest of the world. The rest of the world is no. We had to battle through COVID now, and you put in more stress on possible global supplies of certain items, like wheat, etc., which could affect the global supply of food in certain categories. After we just came out from COVID, where we all just came out of COVID, including you.
Yes.
And this is the most important thing you want to do coming out of COVID. I think that's kind of like the rest of the world. If I had to mirror if the rest of the world could have one voice.
Yeah.
And of course, the integration of the world in 2022 is completely different to what it was in 1945. And the access to information. And so sometimes I understand the West approach and the international approach, also fueled by the private sector, that you're cutting Russia off in terms of applying sanctions and whether that will work with somebody like Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is like they always say because he is such an egocentric man and a strong man. That's been his personality for the last 20 plus years he's been in charge of Russia, the Russian Federation. What is his exit plan? Because people like that don't like to lose face.
No.
So how do you afford them an exit that does not make them lose face, which propels them further on?
But I can't see that being avoided now, at this stage,
I think it's probably past that point.
Yeah.
And if it's past that point, and if he's egocentric, can the world avoid war?
Somebody had to hug him up.
The rest of the world is going to, when I say the rest of the world, I don't mean us. I mean the big players.
One of his detail had to turn rogue. Somebody in his detail will have to turn rogue,
And what do you mean by that?
You know very well what I mean.
I'm asking. I don't know. I do have a translator for your mind at all.
It happened with other world leaders,
What are you talking about?
Somebody right next to them.
Somebody has to go rogue.
Somebody right next to them turn rogue, It has happened with other world leaders.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, because I have Russia is a special kind of place in terms of their mindset and the mind. I remember they have been under a kind of authoritarian kind of control for many years. I mean, after Tsars, you had the Bolshevik Revolution, which led to the communism, which led to a lot of authoritarian types of governance that has lasted generations. And so you have generations of Russians that have been accustomed to that. And even though, to be fair, I mean, you have 10,000 plus people being arrested on the streets of Russia over the length of the last 11 days of this war, all in protest to the war. So 10,000 people have been arrested already with regard to protesting. So protesting is going on in Russia against the war because Ukrainians and Russians have so much connection. People have family, people have friends. There's a lot of connections between the two countries. So how is all of that going to roll out? And will the West eventually have to get involved, whether it be via no-fly zone or whether at some point, if it continues to go the way it goes, at some point, history is going to judge the inaction of the rest of the world harshly.
Or the action.
In terms of military. And I understand the rest of the world's reluctance, and I say the rest of the world loosely, but you know what I mean, because you don't want to risk a nuclear incident because you don't know how crazy.
Well, as you said,
how far you will go.
Gauging the opponent, in this case, Vladimir Putin, you know how egocentric he is. You know that for him, this is also a matter of his political survival in Russia, because if he capitulates at this point after all of this, he may be seen as a weak leader in the context of the Russian people, and it may open the door for somebody to overthrow him. So he's not, and in addition to which, the person is probably looking at his place in history. So there's so many variables in the equation in terms of dealing with him and trying to avoid nuclear engagement at this stage. Right now it's contained within Ukraine, but they don't want to take it past that, and they want to stop that as far as possible. So how do you do that? So the sanctions and the intensification of the sanctions on a UN membership basis and on a corporate basis, because the corporate side coming down to it. The global corporate entities are coming down hard and isolating Russia and Russians because of this war. So what is the end game? What is going to happen 3 months from now? Who is Russia going to be able to talk to? Who is Russia going to trade with?
Yeah.
And can Russia trade if presumably China, India, and whoever else are the only countries willing to trade with Russia?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys want to open the lines. I think we would have wanted to have an interview this hour, but we didn't get onto the person who we wanted to speak with. So maybe we can open the lines.
Just postpone to another day.
Yeah, but we should let people know that they can actually see us. I know one person is actually looking at us because they already messaged me to tell me about that mic by Paul there.
Call names.
Nah, I ain't calling no name.
But they can't. But a mic is an issue.
No.
I don't understand that.
No, it's not.
The mic is suggestive. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I didn't say that either. I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth.
They saw mic.
I don't know once I use the word mic where your mind going. I don't know that already. You know?
It's a microphone. We're talking in media. Microphones are commonplace in studio environments.
What the person didn't see though, there's a mic by Steve also.
Maybe my mic's
maybe it's the red tip of your mic.
That's
maybe it's
stimulating the imagination.
Is it that
it's the red tip of your mic, Paul?
The voice note that you listen to, Wendel, does it have any information that we need to know?
No. That is strictly for me. I might actually have to run away about 8:45.
Maybe the red mic cover is
okay, Paul. Don't go down the rabbit hole.
Too late.
Some sort of reaction from the person.
Oh my goodness, I'm saved by a call. Morning.
Hey, morning, Wendel, Richard, Steve Khan.
Morning, Mr. Patrick.
Morning. Richard Ragoobarsingh, morning. I would like you to explain something to me. 2 points. One, this bill issue where they say Mura accused on road to get bail, and the people get bail, but they're not coming out of jail until the Mura case called?
Until
or
what?
they get bail.
Mr. Patrick, you read
let me see if I answer you. I'm not so sure I understood your question, but bail is discretionary. So a bail may or may not be allowed by a judicial officer. A judicial officer can grant bail or they can deny bail. They can say, no, I'm not granting you bail.
I don't think he's listening.
They get bail. They get bail, you see.
They got bail on the gang charges, not necessarily the murder charges.
Not on murder.
Right. So I was saying, if you get bail, that means you can be free to come out the jail.
No, if you have one charge against you and you got bail on that charge, but in this case,
so they got bail on
the gang charges, not on the murder charges.
Right. Because I was reading with the CCJ was saying that people on murder charge could apply for bail, and I think the Attorney General them lost the case. Right?
Yes, you can apply for bail now on murder.
The CCJ.
Not the CCJ, the Court of Appeal. You can apply for bail now on murder, Mr. Patrick. Mr. Patrick, can you see us?
No, I am going on that system now.
Thank you. I just didn't want you to see all my reactions sometimes, so you know.
Go to Power Digital website. You want to see you?
Want to see you?
No, it's my reactions sometimes the things that you say I was concerned about there for a brief.
You can shut up on your word.
No. Okay, I just double checking.
Yeah. Wendel is saying he has an expressive face when you call Mr. Patrick.
Well, not very good. Have I second him?
My expressions, Mr. Patrick, is not when you call. It's sometimes some of the things you say.
Yeah, I know why I be saying. I know why I be saying. I just like to follow. I like to write it up.
Clearly.
No.
Why are you presuming that I like to rile up Wendel, Mr. Patrick? Is that are you interpreting my thoughts incorrectly?
But you only don't be at it every morning, I don't be laughing every.
Not me, is the opposition. Mr. Patrick is the UNC opposition attacking him, and I came to his defense.
Right.
Wendell, thank you so much for coming to my defense. I appreciate you coming to my defense because without you defending me, I would just be at the whims and fancies of anyone. So Wendell, I thank you for your defense.
They call him an eater food senator, and they say in the back pocket of the PNM. I defended that.
I go to like purchase everything, water, and my business.
That's so difficult for you, Mr. Patrick.
With all your around, I can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Have a wonderful day.
Mr. Patrick.
No, I appreciate it.
You know?
This issue with Paria and the guy who the hired to help the investigation.
They didn't hire anybody to help the investigation. They appointed somebody to a committee. That's different.
Yeah.
Right.
He was the energy chambers pick. He was the pick. Let's correct it, Mr. Patrick. He was the pick of the energy chamber. They asked the energy chamber to recommend somebody. The energy chamber recommended
all that.
Right.
I want to ask the question. If PNM Paria, then I want to find out. And I want to understand if everybody in Trinidad and Tobago is a UNC or a PNM, where they get people from?
Mr. Patrick, not everybody in Trinidad and Tobago is a UNC or PNM. Let's start with that premise.
Well, it seems so.
It doesn't seem so.
No, that's not correct. Yeah.
That is not correct.
I know that, but some people don't think.
You know that? Okay, I'm glad you know that. We should depend on what you know.
So, sometimes it's have a lot of saying on it, because look, for instance, when this issue starts, a lady who I call tell me the government going to call up because it's PNM people they put in there. Right. How she know that?
All right. Thanks, Mr. Patrick.
Well, that's just old talk.
Yeah.
But,
we have independent
thank you
people.
for your contribution, Mr. Patrick.
Mr.
Thank
Patrick,
you. All right. We have some calls here, gentlemen. So let's get into another call. Good morning.
Morning, all in the studio.
Morning.
Let me tell you all something. I think if God is on that committee, or let's say God is chairing that committee, and after the investigation is finished, and God tell the UNC, Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the UNC, this is what was found. God saying, people, this God up there, and he was looking on
which God you talking about? Because different people have different gods, eh?
Our God, the Father up in heaven.
Yeah,
but that is your God.
The Almighty.
Other people have different gods, you know.
And the UNC, this is what happened. You know what the UNC will say? God, you lie. You is a PNM and you're supporting Paria. This is my take on this thing, because the investigation even start and they start to jump out. So I am saying, if God tells Kamala and the UNC, this is what I saw as God happen, she will say, and the UNC, all of them will say, no, you're lying. You supporting the PNM. That is what's going on right now in this country. You all have a good day.
You're so
wonderful
right.
day.
Thank you.
So
Good morning, caller.
They will say they're sure they see God in a meeting somewhere in the PNM.
I'm telling the murderers could appeal for bail. I still don't understand that, but my take on it is that whether you could get bail or not, there is a lot of bubble under the table money and all kind of things could go on. So everybody could get bail and come out.
Well, bail is up to a judicial officer, unless your inference is that judicial officers are generally corrupt. Then I will have to rebut that and say the vast majority, I wouldn't say that they may not be a corrupt person, because you have had corrupt magistrates being arrested previously in our history, but ultimately judicial officers are independent and they determine on the facts before them whether to grant bail or not. It's a discretionary issue. So sometimes magistrates or judges refuse bail.
All right, we have another call. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Just about a year or a little over a year ago, there was some explosion in Petrotrin, and there was an investigation, Nikwan or something like that. I can't remember the name exactly.
Nikwan.
What was the result of that investigation? Nikwan. Right, and there was some big explosion.
Yes.
And there was supposed to be same thing happen, but people were put there to investigate and report, but we haven't got any feedback on that as yet. I think it's about to me, it's about a year or a little over a year now. Did we get any feedback on that?
No.
Yeah, you're right, because we shared those images of the fire and so on, the explosion that happened down in Pointe-a-Pierre there, in Niquan, Niquan.
Right, but did we get the report, because committee was set up also? And that is why people are saying nothing would not come out of this. Because look how long that happened. And we never heard, I'm not sure, if you all can correct me, a committee was also set up.
Partner, what committee ever hold people accountable? Tell me.
We never heard. So I have this feeling that it's the same thing going to happen with this year. That is I'd say that is what will happen. But based on history, it will just that by next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we forget all about this. Just how we forget about the T&Tech blackout. Everybody forgets about that blackout.
And also, remember, whatever report this committee comes up with is going to be evidence in whatever court case is coming.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It happened on April 7th. April 7th last year. That's when it happened.
Right. So that's almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard anything about that. I'm not even hearing about the T&Tech and the investigation into the T. Well, I know that now started to have 45 days. And I believe all these things the same thing will happen just as Niquan. We'll just forget about it and we will just move along. People forget about that T&Tech blackout, national blackout already, you know. People already forget about that. So that will just stay there and be quiet, and then we'll just move on with the next issue. And the next one will cover up one, and the next one will cover up the next one, and that is how we are going. And we're not getting any results of what is actually happening, all these decisions. We're not getting any feedback. You know, that's my take. So I don't believe anything going to come out of this investigation.
Professor Ramesh Diosran, in an article in the Sunday Express, said these commissions of inquiry and investigations and committees are just to quiet down the population at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's why last week I said, to some extent, when Mr. Pinal made the comment about them, I think last week, I said I understand where his mind was going, because we have had so many. And they put out the report, they have a little bacchanal about it, and then they move on.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, we got to pause for a cause. Let's get into our news brief. Avies and Hillbab is in. And of course, your news brief to 8 o'clock on this is 7th day of March, all powered by Champlain Auto Services.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.